Hello and welcome to the Worn and Wound podcast. My name is Zach Kazan. I'm the managing editor at Worn and Wound. Joined today by Kat Shoulders, head of content at Worn and Wound. Kat, how's it going?
Great. We're the only two here.
We're the only two here. Yeah, no, this is. We usually have like the Brady Bunch, kind of like talking head like, set up on our
Sorry,
in our studio. It's just us today,
Yeah.
but that's fine. We're going to be talking about new releases, like new June releases. We're hurtling right towards summer if we're not already there. I mean, I think we're there.
Yeah.
And
wait, I'm Googling first day of summer. I actually don't know if we've reached it yet.
I think it's like next week.
Okay.
Technically.
Yeah.
June
you're right.
20 something.
20th. Yeah.
Okay.
June 20th.
So yeah, not quite there. But in spirit, it's been summer for a while. And I was kind of we had this, thought to do like a new release roundup. I didn't intend to make it like a new summer watch release roundup, but like every brand is trying to sell you a summer watch right now.
Yeah.
So we're gonna talk about a bunch of them. And also ask you, the audience, for your favorite summer watches. Hopefully we'll get some feedback on that. Before we do any of that, Kat, what are you wearing today on your wrist?
I am wearing what many would consider a very good summer watch. This is my Tudor FXD, blue on blue. And it's a great, fun, it's a diver. It's got a nylon Velcro strap. What more could you ask for the summer?
Well, I mean, I guess not much. That's probably it meets the definition, I guess.
I don't know what I'm actually excited to kind of talk about like is like a summer watch even a thing? But but what are you wearing today? I also like your shirt, by the way. I don't know if those are oranges that I see. It's kind of hard to tell.
Yeah, those are oranges. Yeah,
they're cool. Yeah,
one of my citrus shirts.
It's summer.
Yeah, very very summery. I'm wearing my Christopher Ward C1 Belcanto Dragonfly Blue. I'm wearing it on a rubber strap, which it's like that feels summery to me.
Yeah, it does. Like, that blue is so beautiful.
Yeah. I really like it. I like this watch a lot. Continuing to wear it a lot. It just chimed, so you probably won't hear a chime on the air on this podcast recording.
Missed it.
But yeah. Oh well. If we record way longer than we anticipate, you might hear a chime, but we'll see. All right. So this is sort of like a side topic to the to the main topic, but since you brought it up, summer watches.
Yeah.
How do you define a summer watch? Is a summer watch like really a thing?
Yeah.
And just like what are your thoughts on this topic? Because it comes up every year. I mean, without fail, every year we do some sort of like summer watch roundup, summer watch article. We did one this year. We'll link to it in the show notes.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I definitely think that I don't think I think in terms of these are summer watches in my collection. These are winter watches in my collection. These are fall. Like I don't break it up into seasons. Maybe there are more that get worn, maybe more in the summer. But honestly, like I wear my collection all year long. Like I'll wear my Seiko SKX in the middle of winter on the brace. Like it doesn't really matter to me. That being said, I do feel like maybe sometimes I think it's all justification for people to buy more watches. If I'm being honest, like we tell ourselves, we want like a fun summer watch to wear that's like bright, it's colorful. Maybe it's waterproof. People are on the beach, people are vacationing, and it's sometimes a good excuse to buy something new. And there's nothing wrong with that. Tell yourself whatever you need to treat yourself. So that's my thoughts. I don't think it's a thing in my own collection, but I do understand it from a consumer point of view.
Yeah, I mean, so basically, your answer is capitalism. It's it's an excuse to buy things. I mean, that's kind of how I feel too. Like it's sort of it's an invention. I think let me rephrase that. It's sort of like become this thing that's been invented. That I think was born out of like just sort of like practicality that we did without even thinking about it. Like, I imagine, imagine a watch world before, like the internet and like watch culture. In the summer, you just wore watches that were comfortable in hot weather and you didn't like call them a summer watch. You just knew that like, if you had a watch that was on a, like a fancy leather strap or whatever, that wasn't ideal in the summer. And you would either like switch the strap out, to something more,
Or you wear it less.
appropriate, or you would like put on, like a dive watch or something with a rubber strap, or you'd put on the Swatch or whatever. And if you're traveling, maybe you don't want to travel with like the expensive watch. Maybe you put on something, that's a little, more, like, expendable or whatever,
Oh yeah, for
so,
sure.
Yeah. So I think that like it's now become something that we can label, and we can like, create a piece of content around it, and brands can like sell us a watch telling us it's a summer watch, perfect for summer. And that also has sort of like, defined an aesthetic around it, which is kind of like, sportier watches, bright colors, whatever.
Yeah.
But I do think it's interesting that like we don't think of like winter watches, like, that's not a term that's thrown around unless it's like, unless we're on a podcast just like discussing the like the very nature of seasonal watches at all. So I do think it's a little bit invented.
Yeah.
That said, there are real practical considerations to make when it's summertime. Just like I wouldn't wear, like a wool suit or something, in the height of summer. I wouldn't wear, like a fancy, precious metal dress watch on an alligator strap when it's 90 degrees.
Yeah. I definitely get it. And I think, if I were to define what a summer watch is for me right now, I would say I would want something that was waterproof. I would want something that is maybe under a certain price point, because maybe I'm vacationing, maybe I'm traveling. I want something that I can kind of beat up a little bit, maybe even at home. I don't want to think too much about. And then I also like color. That is something I definitely think of first when I think of summer watches. Something that's bright, it's colorful, just kind of gives you a summer vibe. Something that you might not wear in the winter with your dark clothes and sweaters, but something that makes sense in the summer with a white t-shirt and like shorts, something like that.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
For me, the color thing is less critical, because I have a bunch of colorful watches, and I tend to wear them, like all year round. I understand, of course, like the idea of, wanting to, wear more colorful, whatever in the summertime. That makes a lot of sense. I don't wear this like, this orange, citrus orange shirt, like, in the wintertime, but this is certainly a summer shirt. I think we can agree,
yes,
on that. But, yeah, I don't know. I like wearing, different colors, all
definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
All right. So let's move on to some of the watches of the moment. I made a list here of watches that have basically all been released like in the month of June, for the most part. And maybe we can like dig back a little bit further. I didn't put this list together thinking we're going to talk about summer watches, but they really are all
they really are
summer watches in one way or the other, which tells you that like brands have sort of like figured out that they are going to try to sell people summer watches.
I think too, maybe it's also like it's been, about 6 months since the holidays. People get a little itchy to just get something new and fun. And it is a good excuse.
Okay, it doesn't take you 6 months. Come on. Let's be
some
realistic.
People, Kazan, some people. Not me.
Yeah, no, for sure. I get that itch. I understand. Yeah. You want something new. All right. The first watch on the list here, Devin wrote about this watch last week. The Manta Ocean King in blue.
Yeah.
Have you had a chance to see this watch, Kat? I know Devin had
not in person. No, unfortunately, not in person yet.
So this, I think, is definitely qualifies as a summer watch.
Yeah.
It's a big, bold diver, and it's blue. Yeah, I don't know if like blue is necessarily like a summer color, but it's I think it fits. It's it's not black, so it's it's a little bit summery. What are your impressions of this watch? I know you have quite a bit of experience handling Mantas, so probably
I've loved Manta over the years, and I think I'm so glad to see them bring some more colors to the new Ocean King iteration, because that's where I really always my first Manta was like this really bright, vibrant blue Ocean King, which they no longer make, but this is kind of a close version of that. It's really nice. I mean, it's a solid summer watch, and I will say that I think the one that maybe even screams a little bit more summer, I don't know if you saw this, but they did a limited edition with a turquoise dial and a black ceramic bezel, and that one screams summer to me. It's like very vibrant and blue, and the turquoise color is really, really pretty. But yeah, I think this has like all of the things that I would want. It's colorful. It's obviously water resistant to like 1,000 feet. It's got a great bracelet. It's got a quick adjust on the bracelet for the moments where your wrists swell in the summer and you want to adjust. I think that's really important for me. And yeah, like I said, it's kind of checks all the boxes that you would kind of look for in a watch, and maybe even more so if you were looking for something that's like kind of sub adjacent, but like not a sub because maybe you're going somewhere you don't want to wear a Rolex sub. Like this is a great alternative to that for sure.
Yeah. So what struck me about this when I first saw it was that it's, like all Montes, to some extent are kind of borrowing from that Rolex design school, to varying degrees. But certainly, the Ocean King has, like a very kind of like Submariner like quality to it. And the equivalent Submariner here, of course, is the white gold bluesy, which is, like a very, that's a very expensive watch. It's like tens of thousands of dollars. I don't know what the retail is off the top of my head, but like, that's sort of the, like the aesthetic comp here, I guess. So like, it's a little different than like buying, like the black dial version of the watch, which, a cynic might say is like an homage to, like the Submariner or whatever. This is a watch that that is kind of borrowing aesthetically from a much more unobtainable like specific watch. I will say, I like Montel a lot. They make a very high quality product, as we all know. There's something about the lines of the case here when you view it head on. It kind of, to me, looks like if you had like a 5-digit Rolex from like the 90s and it was like over polished. Like there's something that's like not
rounded.
There's something that's like not super crisp about those case lines viewed from certain angles. And like there's nothing wrong with like rounded edges on a case if that's what you're going for, but it struck me as a odd choice because these watches are so much in conversation with Rolex. It really kind of looks like an undesirable kind of like over polished Rolex, at least to me. So I just thought that was interesting because they did make some little tweaks to the case on this model, as I understand it. So
they did. Yeah, I can totally see that. And they are a little softer than I think like previous iterations.
Yeah. I haven't seen this one in person either. Every Monta that I've ever handled has been impressive in terms of its fit and finish. Like they really have it dialed in, with their suppliers, and they do a nice job of getting like a really good product onto the wrists of their of their fans. So I'm sure it came out exactly as they intended. It's just kind of visually from certain angles it just doesn't quite look as I don't know, as like contemporary, I guess, as I would want it to look.
Makes sense.
But
sure.
But yeah. Anyway, we have a link to that. We'll have a link to that in the show notes. Devin went hands on, and has his impressions up on the website right now.
Yeah.
The next watch on my list is not only a summer watch, it's based on the like ultimate expression of summer, like to me, which is the summer blockbuster.
Pretty
which
literal.
is and the best the original summer blockbuster of course is Jaws, and Jaws turns 50, and Seiko released a limited edition of their Seiko Turtle with a Jaws theme dial. I don't know who this watch is for besides like deep Jaws heads and Jaws collectors, of which there are actually many. There's like a subculture of that. But I thought this like really took me by surprise, and I thought was kind of fun.
Yeah, I think so too. I really like this, and I can't say that Jaws is my favorite like Spielberg movie per se, but it is a fun summer movie. It's one they often play. You'll see at parks. They'll do screenings and stuff during the summer. It's kind of a safe movie for like a family to watch. It's a little, got a little scary element.
It's violent.
I feel like they play it for families in the park here.
They definitely
maybe that's not aimed at a certain like people bring their kids. Not maybe it's not aimed for them, but
there are like bloody shark attacks.
Yeah. I mean, if we're being honest, we probably all watched this way too young of an age. Same with like, I don't know, I remember Birds and Alfred Hitchcock and seeing that at like 5 and being scarred for life of Birds. But
I'm still scarred by Birds. Birds will always be a little bit scary to me. Birds and sharks.
And sharks, there you go.
Yeah.
We're safe to stay away from them. But no, I think this is a fun summer watch. Like this is actually kind of like right up my alley, like for a summer watch, because it's kind of quirky. I probably am only gonna wear it like in the summer, maybe like on a rubber strap and like washing my car and going to the beach or going to the pool. It's under $1,000 and I love the Seiko turtle. Have always loved the Seiko turtle, so I love that they put it in this case.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know, it's just fun. I feel like it's a watch people will kind of look at and ask you questions about, and it's just really playful. It
has the Jaws kind of like, you know, that red logo, like you kind of it's like that's associated with the movie, you know, like right in the middle of the dial, which, you know, I get why they did that. Like they obviously like they got like the licensing deal and they, you know, they were, you know, they're able to include it. So you kind of have to include it. I wonder if it would be like a little bit more effective for me if it wasn't there, if it was like on the back. On the back, something.
Yeah.
Because you also have this like this image of a shark as well coming out of the water. It's a blue gradient dial, of course. And it's made to look like, you know, like the ocean, and you see this like shark rising up from the surface of the ocean. And I guess the intent is that like from certain angles it's like it's more visible, and from other angles it's like it kind of disappears. That would like, it would be just a little bit more subtle if you had that like Jaws logo like taken off and just had the shark that you only
I can totally get that
sometimes.
I think if they had done like maybe a see-through case back and then had Jaws really big on the back in red lettering, and then you could still see the movement, like that would be kind of cool too. But I see your point to where it does distract a little bit, because your eyes go immediately to Jaws, not the actual shark on the dial. Like that's the first thing you see. So like I totally get your point of like it is a little distracting. And they could have totally put it on the back of the watch for sure.
And it just kind of like makes it seem like you're wearing like a licensed product, you know, like it's like you're very like kind of out front, you know, in that aspect, you know, with the Jaws right on the dial. It's just you know, I like something I guess a little bit more subtle. You said that Jaws wasn't your favorite. You said it wasn't your favorite Spielberg. I think I know what your favorite Spielberg is. It's Jurassic Park, right?
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
If they make a Jurassic Park watch, I'll buy a bunch of them. 100%. Seiko, please listen.
No, I'm probably on the hook for a Seiko Jurassic Park watch too if they ever did that. I gotta say, I love Jaws though. I watch Jaws every year. It's a great summer movie. I've seen it on the big screen a number of times. It's fantastic.
Don't take your kids.
It's shocking. I think it's like the first. Oh man, this is like a trivia question that like I've heard. I think it's like the first movie that's rated like PG or PG-13 or something, like after they redid the ratings, or maybe they redid the ratings like because of this movie.
Oh wow,
but like
okay.
It has like. That. I mean, it has like a very like multiple very bloody shark attacks like in the first like, you know, 45 minutes of the movie. So it's like it's pretty intense. And
I feel like kids these days, they see everything. They play video games.
Yeah, but there's something like in our genetic memory that like you know, makes us afraid of sharks. And
I was afraid of sharks even swimming in like a swimming pool. I was convinced I was going to get bit by a shark.
Well, I mean, that's what this movie traumatizes people into thinking that. The Jaws 50th anniversary watch is cool. It's limited to 5,000, which doesn't seem like a small number to me.
It's a lot.
That's worldwide, so you know there's a lot of Jaws fans out there. But you know, it costs like $795. I mean, that's a little out of like impulse buy territory for me. But like, this is the kind of thing if I saw one like on sale or like pre-owned for like $500, like I think I might have to buy it. Okay, Jaws 50th anniversary watch, another cool summer watch. So the next watch on my list, this is like hot off the presses, just came out last week, and you mentioned a Manta earlier that is essentially the same color as this new Tudor. They released the Black Bay 54 Lagoon Blue.
Yeah.
So this is a Tudor Black Bay 54 with essentially a Tiffany blue dial.
Yeah.
And it's textured, and it has a mirror polished bezel instead of the black aluminum bezel that we saw on the previous and so far only Black Bay 54 release. This watch came out, like, I literally saw like the press release come in as I was like getting on a shuttle bus to the airport. Like, and I banged out this article. It was very early in the morning, and I banged out this article like on the bus to the airport.
Oh wow! Dang, I didn't know that.
And texted you guys and was like, "Can someone like put the rest of this post together? Because like, I want to get this up, but I'm getting on a plane." What were your impressions of the Black Bay 54 Lagoon Blue when you saw the press release?
Initially, I'll be honest, like I didn't love it. I think it's grown on me, especially over the weekend. I've seen a lot of hands-on photos from folks that have seen it in real life and are taking, iPhone shots that are not like heavily edited. One thing I'm always skeptical about with any brand really is like, how does this actually look in person versus like the press images? Because as we all know, they're oftentimes really heavily edited and colors don't exactly match. I will say, I think Tudor did a really good job. The real life photos look very similar to what we're looking at right now. Like this dial really shimmers and shines, and is very much that vibrant blue. So I have to give them kudos for keeping it really accurate in terms of renderings that we see online. But yeah, I've come to actually like it. It reminds me of some of the like early 2000s Tudor subs that came out with the stainless bezels. There was several that I had my eye on for years. One with like that's beautiful like sunray salmon dial, and they were available in like that more mid-size case. So I think like Tudor's really kind of pulling from that. Obviously they're not going to do a Tudor sub. Like that's just not going to happen.
Never going to happen.
They have the Black Bay, and that's what they're doing, and they're bringing that to this, and it's exactly what it is. I think it's really cool that it's in the 54 case. I'm glad to see them doing more with the 54 in general. So yeah, I think it's awesome. I really like it. It's not something I would buy. I think the dial's maybe like a little, I don't know. The shimmer of it is like something I don't know that I would love to wear daily. But it looks really pretty. I'm excited to see one at some point.
Yeah, I think this watch is gonna be pretty popular. Just from like sort of seeing the reactions on social media, it seems like people really, really like this.
Yeah.
I do see some comments that are kind of like, people are tired of like the Tiffany blue thing.
Yeah.
Which I think is understandable. I think adding some texture to it kind of like makes it a little less of like a Tiffany play, and is just a little bit more. I don't know if it's like a Tudor thing necessarily either, but it does differentiate it a bit from other watches in their catalog, especially if you think of like recent like colorful kind of like surprise releases like the pink chronograph and I guess the blue chronograph as well, like and just like kind of their recent history, they're really kind of leaning into the like sunray texture on a lot of watches, and so this is like a very different sort of thing. I also thought it was interesting. I'm curious to hear your thoughts on this, on the marketing around this watch. At least from what we saw in the press release, there were a lot of photos of this watch on female wrists.
Yeah.
And Tudor's always done a pretty good job of being like pretty neutral when it comes to like showing their watches on like male or female wrists. It's pretty evenly balanced, or like they don't really like play into that like this is a ladies watch sort of game, but like it kind of felt like they were with this one a little bit. Do you have any thoughts on that at all?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with those thoughts. I think initially it definitely came out as like all of the press photos were on women, and then eventually now we have images of it on men as well. But I think it's just a matter of like 9 times out of 10, the initial set of images that are shared are usually on a man. But like Tudor also has gone back, like even my like FXD, they have photos of this on a woman on their site. They have photos of like even the largest Black Bays. Like and the chronos, they do a good job of shooting it on both, but I think like this is like one of the first times that they actually truly release it on a female, like right out of the gate. And I think that kind of took a lot of people back because they didn't share like both of those images so quickly. So I think ultimately it's a unisex, obviously. As any watch is. Don't tell yourself otherwise. Watches are like just buy what you like.
Yeah.
But I do agree that I think they probably have women in mind. That's my easy guess, for this watch. It does have a feminine look to it. Like you can't deny that. And that's okay.
I think it's more the polished bezel and the 5-link bracelet, honestly, than the dial color that make it feel or would make Tudor think that it would make sense to market it towards women. It's
a little blingy.
Yeah, a little bit blingy, a little more like a piece of jewelry, perhaps. Yeah. I mean, men have been buying Tiffany blue watches, like this has been like a craze for the last like 3, 4, 5 years or whatever. Yeah. And like, there's lots of men who are interested in this color.
Yeah.
So I think, the contrast and the, like the way that the bezel presents versus the original Black Bay 54 really kind of like is doing a lot of the work here and in that respect, because like no one, I mean, there were people who complained about the size of the Black Bay 54 when it was originally released, saying it was too small, etc. But I didn't really hear anyone, like no one would describe that as a ladies watch, know, and Tudor didn't market it as a ladies watch. So yeah, it's an interesting sort of like interesting conversation. I always wonder like how brands sort of like arrive at those decisions, know.
Yeah. I mean, I'm glad to see it. I hope that it opens the door to speaking to women a little bit more prominentely, and especially in the watch space, because I think they had to know they were going to get a reaction, right, from a lot of the watch community. But I'm excited to see this one in person. I really want to see that dial. Are you tired of Tiffany dials? I know a lot of people are. How do you feel about it?
I'm sort of neutral on it. Like it's not my favorite color. I don't so it's not something that I would find myself like reaching for necessarily. I think there was a moment where like everyone was just trying to like do a Tiffany Tiffany dial for like every watch that they were producing, and like that just got like a little bit old. But I think we might be at a point where it's just another dial color.
Yeah,
honestly,
that's what my thoughts are too.
Yeah. And I think it's a nice looking color. It's just like, it's not, wouldn't be like in my top 5 favorite, like, dial colors or anything, but like choice is a good thing. It's good to have, good to have options.
Yeah. My thought is this dial going to still fit in 40 years from now? I don't really know, but I also I'm very indifferent to it. I think that for every Tiffany dial, there's a darker, more neutral color. Like all these, like they don't have one watch that's just in the Tiffany. Like there's other options normally.
Right.
So I think that like it's just an addition, and you don't have to buy it, and you can buy like the black dial or like the navy blue dial. Like there's always going to be those like sort of like neutral colors available if this is not your jam. But speaking to this watch, and that it does have sort of this feminine appeal to it, I think if we look at that new Manta that has a very similar color dial, but it has the oyster bracelet and it has the black ceramic bezel, that is more masculine leaning, but still a similar dial color of a watch. And they could have done that with this. They could have put the oyster style bracelet. They could have not put a polished bezel on it and made it very different. But clearly, I think they did want to market this maybe towards women, which is cool. I'm glad to see that they're thinking about us.
Yeah, I agree. So another interesting thing about this watch that sort of got me thinking is the Black Bay 54 came out, was it last year or the year before?
Maybe
it was
the year before.
Yeah. So it hasn't been that long. So they waited 2 years to launch the next 54.
Yeah.
And if you think about like the track of the Black Bay 58, which had the original black dial and then the blue, and then 2 precious metal Black Bay 58s, the gold and the silver, which were like really kind of like niche watches, kind of out on their own. It took a while to get like another Black Bay 58, which we just got this year, that red one. So it's kind of got me thinking, like, what comes next for the 54? Like, do we get,
Yeah.
like, do they follow like the same path as the 58? And are we going to get like a precious metal 54 at some point?
That'd be kind of cool.
Yeah, that would be kind of cool. Or are they going to, like, does it not follow the path of the 58? And now we just get like a bunch of variants.
Yeah. We'll see.
Yeah. I mean, I can remember when the 58 came with that blue 58. Like, I remember that release like very, very clearly. And because it was during the pandemic and it was like a sensation.
Yeah, it was.
And people really thought it was going to like open the floodgates. And like, there was a lot of conversation about like, I'll just wait for the, I'll wait for the green one, or I'll wait for the, whatever. And we just never got those variants.
No.
So yeah, I'm very, very curious, like, what happens, with this line. What would your ideal next Black Bay 54 be? And do you still own your Black Bay 54, or is that
not? No,
it does? Okay,
I do not.
We shouldn't be surprised, I guess. But that's,
I will say, well, and I do own like a Sea Dweller, and I think that really kind of just, I ended up wearing that way more than the Black Bay, and so it just sort of kicked the Black Bay out for me.
That's a very different type of dive watch.
Very different, yes, but also like just dark dial. Like I don't know, they're dark divers and very similar in that way in my collection. So I ended up getting rid of it versus like what I'm wearing right now, which is an FXD. It feels wildly different than my Sea Dweller, in how it wears and what it is. But I think I would like. I think I would like a precious metal, like an all gold 54. I feel like I could rock that, and it would be very different for me than anything else I have. And yeah, I think that would be kind of cool.
I feel like there will be riots in the streets if they do a gold Black Bay 54 and don't put it on a bracelet.
Yeah, which they're
because they did that. They did the gold Black Bay 58, but they put it on a strap, and people were like, "Where's the gold bracelet? We want the gold." I mean, obviously, it would be like so much more expensive, but
I want all gold.
No, I mean,
even a two-tone. I'd take a two-tone. Yeah,
two-tone would be two-tone's an option. I think we'll get a different dial variant before we get a different metal. I think maybe they'll do a pink one.
That makes sense
because they've been into that recently. They could do one with one of their pink is that's the color of the soccer team that they're aligned with. I think so.
The Miami or something.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
You're asking two people that don't.
Yeah. It's not my area of expertise, but everything I know about soccer, I know from Tudor's collection. That's a lie. I know a little bit more about soccer than that, but I think we
that makes sense.
I think we get different dial variants before we get a precious metal version of this.
Yeah. But, and they like pink. They've done a lot of pink. We've had it in the Black Bay chronos and the FXD chronos, black and pink combinations. And I think you might be onto something. Maybe we'll see a pink version.
Maybe I'm just conjuring things on this podcast today. Well, we will find out in due course. The next watches I wanted to talk about. This was a big release. A lot of people were very interested in these new Breitling Super Ocean releases. So Breitling completely relaunched their Super Ocean Heritage collection, and we keep a list of like new releases, or as I do, I keep a list of releases that are coming and kind of like assign some out to writers and like take some for myself. And I thought, well, this will be a relatively straightforward thing to write about. I'll take this for myself. And I start reading the press release, and of course, like a day or two before we're scheduled to go live with the post, and it turns out there's like 30 references to talk about.
There's so many.
There's so many. What Breitling has done here is they've like I said, they've completely revamped their Super Ocean Heritage line. There are now watches in there's a new 36 millimeter size, and there's also a 40, a 42, a 44, plus a chronograph, which is I think 44, if I'm not mistaken. So quite the range here. I really like this update. I think the Super Ocean Heritage was always like an interesting watch, kind of like a comp for a Black Bay, in a lot of ways, like a vintage inspired dive watch made by like a storied brand, that also makes a lot of other different types of watches, and for Breitling in particular, I feel like dive watches are not really like that's not where like the brand is centered. Obviously the brand is centered on their like, aviation inspired watches, pilots watches and so forth. But this feels like a much more complete package. It feels like they really put like a lot of effort into kind of like rethinking this as a dive watch. I think mostly to me that kind of comes through in the way the straps and the bracelet are integrated to the case. It just feels more, it feels more contemporary to me. But what are your thoughts on this relaunch of the Super Ocean Heritage?
Yeah, this is one that I don't really care for. I don't like the revamp. I've also, just to be honest, like I've never been a huge fan of the Super Ocean Heritage line. I like the Super Oceans. I have owned several, but this has never been like a favorite series of mine, and I just have not taken to these new models.
Even with all the variety, there isn't a single one in here.
I mean, I think the mint, I think the mint's really cool. The mint strap, the rubber strap, and the mint dial and the mint bezel, like that one's like, it's really pretty to me. And like, if I had to pick one out of the bunch, it would definitely be that one. Even like the darker green, I really like too. I think Breitling does green really well in general.
Yeah.
Been usually a big fan of their greens, but yeah, I just think like overall, maybe I'm just like overstimulated. There's so many options. Like it's kind of hard for me to focus on one in particular and really like appreciate it for what it is. So I can fully admit to that. I think the mesh bracelet is really nice too. I'd be interested to see that in person. Because it kind of looks like it sits maybe out of your wrist a little bit, which could wear a little wonky. But yeah, overall, like it just didn't, I don't know. It didn't do much for me personally.
That's okay. Listen, not every watch is going to be everything to everyone. And, we found one here that, is not your cup of tea. So that's,
what are your thoughts?
I mean, I think they're an improvement over the what was until last week, the existing Super Ocean Heritage, kind of like design language. I think, like just like pure vintage inspired dive watches are like not really my cup of tea usually. Like I love my Tudor Black Bay, but like I'm not, it's not like a sector of the watch market that I'm like constantly thinking about. I don't have a desire to like own a bunch of these things. So I think they made this a better option for like somebody who, might be looking for like their one and only watch. I think it's maybe like a better, it looks better in comparison to like, your Black Bays and, your Seamasters than like the previous version did. So I think like they made some improvements and they'll be slightly more competitive against those watches. Which I'm sure was part of the thinking here. The other thing about these watches is they use the larger sizes anyway. They use Breitling's newer 3-hand movement, which we saw debut not too long ago in their 3-hand Top Time collection. So that's the other story here, is that they're getting this new movement out pretty quickly. And so that's also is a promising development
for sure
for Breitling.
I totally get that.
And I gotta say, like, I'm just kind of scrolling through the article here, and I think the two-tone models are nice. Like there's that two-tone chronograph is like that'll be a very like big watch on the wrist, but like it has what looks like a decent amount of gold on it, and like, I think the gold and black in particular is a nice look. So
definitely.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't mind. I haven't seen any of these in person. I would certainly be interested in checking them out. They also have these new Kelly Slater collaborations. You owned a Kelly Slater Breitling at one point, right?
I did. Yeah, I always think they're really fun.
Yeah,
and I think this one is fun too. I like the dial of it.
Yeah, it has like a floral pattern, like Hawaiian surf culture inspired. So that's your Breitling Super Ocean Heritage, which is a pretty big release for them. I want to touch on a couple more here. This one's from a while back. Griffin wrote this up. It's the Gerard Perregaux Deep Diver, which is a recreation of a vintage Gerard Perregaux watch, which again, I haven't seen this one in person either, but I chatted with Griffin about it pretty extensively, and he wrote about it in the article that we'll link in the show notes. And he really thought this was like a really cool kind of like nearly one-to-one recreation of the original.
Yeah, it looks like it.
It just like screams vintage, and that's not something that usually I associate with Girard-Perregaux necessarily. But it really, like they really did capture that kind of like 70s sort of like funky, like highly angular case, like super colorful dial look. I think that's a cool release.
Yeah, I think I love the aesthetics of it, and I love the idea behind it. I think, and I'm just purely judging this on photos, not holding it in my hands and seeing it in person. But I I'm skeptical about the finishing on it for a $15,000 watch, just based on some of the dial and little technical things that I see on it. But again, I haven't seen this in person, and so I don't want to judge. This is also oftentimes press pieces get sent around, their prototypes. So I don't know if this was a prototype or if this is like an actual model, but I'm not thoroughly like impressed with like the dial finishing. I think for me, I think it's very vintage. I would have liked to have seen them like make some modern upgrades to that vintage look to make it a little bit more, to be honest, luxury feeling, I think, especially if you're spending $15K on a watch. So I think that's my only comment, but I think it's really fun. I love the idea behind it, and it's really funky and cool.
Yeah, the price for this was a big point of discussion when it was announced. $15,000 is that's a lot of money, for this watch. I think like it would be a lot more appealing, like orders of magnitude more appealing, if it were under 10, let's say. But it like Girard-Perregaux is a luxury brand that's positioned at a certain price point, and like they can't really like release a watch like this, I think, at any price, other than like around 15,000. You would just hope that, to your point, that it's like it's nice enough to warrant that, that price tag. I don't disagree. I think that it's, like we're looking at it and we're thinking like this would be great, under 10. That speaks to like, the quality of the finishing that we're seeing. So yeah, I don't disagree with that at all. I do think that it's like, just something like I was not expecting this, I get a lot of press releases. And it's like,
definitely surprise.
I always like take note of the things that are like genuinely surprising. And like, this is not something that, based on the Girard-Perregaux stuff we've seen recently, which is like, not always been, frankly, like, all that interesting, like just kind of endless iterations on the Laureato. Seeing this diver come through was,
this is really fun.
Yeah, it was just a different thing for them. So
I agree.
So yeah, that's the Girard-Perregaux Deep Diver. The last watches that I wanted to discuss, and I think you have another one on this list too, if you want to take that. But the last thing that I had identified is the Zenith, the pair of Zenith divers. They released 2 watches in their Shadow line, a Zenith Defy Extreme Diver and a Zenith Defy Revival Shadow Diver. So both of these watches basically look like tennis balls. Is sort of like my my impression. One of course is the like modern ultra tech forward extreme diver. The other is in the form factor of the vintage diver that they released at Watches and Wonders a year ago. I really like the shadow stuff. I think the shadow stuff is cool. I think it's interesting that they immediately kind of, or within like a year, kind of brought it to the dive watch collection, especially after not having divers in the collection for so long. I think that to me indicates that there's like, a real interest in Zenith continuing to expand their dive watch line. I particularly like the Revival. I think the Revival looks cool just because there's like so much of that like tennis ball yellow on it.
I agree.
And I think it works a little bit better thematically in the Shadow format, which is sort of like based on like early Zenith like prototypes, and this being like a vintage inspired watch. I think that makes sense. What are your thoughts on these?
I really like them. Watches? Yeah, I really like them. I agree. I like the Revival version a little better. And I think, I don't know if they both come on this like bright yellow sort of NATO-esque strap, but that look is pretty hot. Like I love it. I think it looks really cool on the strap, even versus the bracelet. I mean, these are also priced pretty high for a quick summer watch, but I think like I've seen these in person and like can attest like the quality is definitely there. They feel more high end in general. But I love the loom. Like they looks like they've got some different color loom they're playing with on these models, which is really fun to see. But yeah, I don't know if like yellow's my color in general, like especially tennis ball yellow, but I do get summer vibes. It's a summer color. People are playing tennis obviously outside. It's a really sporty color in general. Like yellow, you see it on sport cars, right? It's just like it's bright, it's attention seeking, like
For sure.
it's just a fun, colorful watch to have. But overall, yeah, these are like pretty cool in my opinion.
Yeah. The Revival is $8,200. The Extreme is $12,300. So I think like,
Yeah.
like imagine if the GP was priced at the same, as the I mean, particularly the Revival, but even the Extreme, it becomes
a little more digestible.
Yeah, and it also, I mean, like these Zeniths are like, I don't know, like they just like they feel like more I don't know, like thought through, I guess, as like modern watches. I mean, I know the Revival is a vintage inspired thing, but just like in terms of the pricing, I just think it's interesting. Yeah, these are really cool. Like I said, I think the Revival diver is like a really special thing. It's just cool that they got it like it's 600 meters water resistant, just like the original, just like the Extreme. Like these watches are really in conversation with each other in an interesting way. Yeah, this is a cool release, I think.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, Kat, there's one more watch on this list. I know that you have a little bit deeper familiarity with it than I do. So if you wanted to discuss this one.
So we've got the Huckberry and Citizen ProMaster Tough Watch, they're calling it. This is limited edition. This is something that you can find only in the Huckberry shop. Meg will have a full hands-on write-up coming very soon to the site. May even be up by the time you hear this podcast. Don't know yet, but very, very soon. So I'm excited to read her thoughts on it. But I just got it in for some photos and like immediately this screams summer watch. Like you've got this like forest green dial. The loom on this watch is incredible. So all of the numerals here are very, very bright white and they all have loom on them. So you see all of the numerals, all of the hands in the dark, which is really nice. It comes in at like a really good size too. I'm trying to see what the spec was on this one. I know it's 20 millimeter lug, a 41.5, which I don't think it doesn't feel like a 41.5 millimeter watch. I'll take some photos. My wrists are around like 6.5-inch wrists, but it feels and wears like a little bit smaller, which is nice. The lugs sort of come down a little bit, but I don't know. This is like really what I would buy if I was buying a summer watch. Great price point at $525, super titanium, eco drive. It's just kind of got water resistant. It's got all the things. And then it's also like fun too with the loom, and the green dial is really pretty. And to your point of something else we talked about, it's like not overly branded Huckberry. You have it on the back, but it's not on the dial or anything like that. So it's pretty subtle with the branding here.
Yeah, this is like a different expression of the summer watch. I feel like most of the watches we've talked about have kind of been like more
divers,
divers, beach focused, like bright colors. This feels like more subdued, more like, I mean, kind of like more like exploring the forest, like sort of like Pacific Northwest,
but still outdoorsy, still rugged.
Yeah. Which is just another sort of like, there's a lot to do in the summer. That doesn't all have to be like, at the beach with a pina colada, in your hand or whatever. This is cool. I'm also excited to get Meg's review of this up on the site. Like you said, could be very soon. Could be up as you are listening to this, in which case we'll include a link to that review in the show notes. But for like $500, I think this is like a pretty that is kind of like in the realm of like, potential impulse buy for the summer. And it doesn't have like a shark on the dial or like an obvious licensing thing, to kind of like make you think like, am I a walking commercial for something? So
totally.
So yeah, that's another. Really
no, what I think would have been cool, and I'm just going to say this. So you have the little Eco Drive logo just above Eco Drive, right? It's a little arrow. I think it would have been cool to put the Huckberry tree, that's their logo, there instead, and it would have been a subtle nod to Huckberry because like that's their little logo.
Yeah,
I don't know.
and they're
I thought
similar.
that would have been very similar. Like you could have replaced that, and honestly, people might have not even noticed. But like that would have been really cool to see that little tree right there above the Eco Drive. Anyway,
I don't think Citizen's giving up their logo on their on their.
I understand it, but
watch,
I just think it would have been cool.
Yeah, no, I agree. We get it on the case back. So you can see for yourself how close they are. Maybe they could put it on the crown. Like that would be maybe. That would have been cool. That's the compromise. Maybe is getting that getting it on the crown. Yeah, I don't disagree. I think that would be a fun little nod for the kind of like inside baseball, because like you said, like most people probably wouldn't notice. Yeah,
for sure.
All right, Kat. Well, we talked about a bunch of watches. It was kind of like accidentally summer watch themed episode. We can't help it because that's what brands want us to buy in the summer months. Is they want us to buy their colorful, mostly diver, kind of centered watches, and that's fine. Yeah, we like those watches.
That's what we like.
Yeah, yeah. So if you have any thoughts on any of the watches we discussed, definitely drop us a comment. Get onto the Warner One Plus Slack channel. Let us know what you think. We'd love to hear about your favorite new releases so far this summer, whether they are summer watches or not. Definitely feel free to share your thoughts. And we'll be back next week with another episode of the Worn and Wound podcast. Until then, take care.